episode 11 of Trev's Hockey Show here on Trev TV. I'm the Trev. Y'all know that. If you're tuning in, if you're watching, that's too sweet. Anyways, happy Canuck Day. Even though it's one of those holidays that Trev doesn't celebrate, I feel I should at least say happy Canuck Day. And happy Free Agency Day, because that's more or less the most reason why we're here, is to talk about day one of NHL free agency. To say that it kind of went off unexpected is a bit of an understatement. I honestly thought JT was signing in San Jose. But we'll get over those. We'll go through those signings momentarily. So with me on this video, and like all other videos like this, is the NHL app. Before I get into free agents and my initial reactions, I missed a good chunk of free agency day because I was celebrating Canuck Day with the family and we had a whole day of out and about things, but I digress. Talking the trade should have happened on draft day, but for whatever reason didn't, and it happened today. Buffalo traded Ryan O'Reilly to St. Louis for Patrick Berglund, Vladimir Sobotka, Tage Thompson, a second-round pick in 2021, and a first-round pick in 2019 or 2020. Gotta love those conditional first-rounders, huh? Good trade for St. Louis. Very good trade for St. Louis. Whether or not it's the great trade for Ryan O'Reilly remains to be seen, but good to see him back in the Western Conference. That was obviously where he was the more dominant player. Not saying he wasn't anywhere near his potential in Buffalo, but his is a very Western style kind of game, I think, anyways. And it could be a good thing for both parties, but it's definitely a very good thing for St. Louis. Moving on to free agents. And for this, I pulled up TSN. It's because they're a little more... They beat the NHL apps to the punch a lot of times. But anyway, there was a whole list of top 10 free agents at the start of the day. I think all but one or maybe two are definitely off that list. Or two are probably still on it, but the rest of the top 10, they moved. And the biggest one, obviously, John Tavares going to Toronto. As I said at the beginning, I thought he was going to San Jose. I thought, since they have Couture locked up long term, they have Brent Burns still for a couple more years, and they'll probably re-sign him before he expires. A good possibility of Joe Thornton coming back in the lineup. It was championship all over it. But him going to Toronto, it helps them out big time. Big time. They're definitely going to make that push past the first round now. Whether or not it's enough to take them to the conference finals, even the cup finals, or even to a cup, we'll see when we get there, really. Toronto's not necessarily known as being a consistent team, and many Leafs fans will tell you that. And if they don't, they're liars. But anyway, 7 years, $77 million overall. So, he took a year less, probably took less money to go to Toronto. Luke Schenn signed a year in Anaheim. Luke Schenn is not necessarily the Luke Schenn of old, but good to see he's still getting some kind of work. Colorado signed Matt Calvert for 3 years. The silliest move, I think, happened, where Columbus signed Riley Nash for 3 years. He had a good year. Obviously he did. There's no discrediting that. But can he do that again? I don't know. I don't think so, but there's been many one-season wonders. And hopefully for Columbus's sake, he's not. Sven Baertschi re-signed in Vancouver for their 3 years. And I guess since Toronto took Tavares off the Islanders, they took Komarov off Toronto for 4 years. scratching my head on that one. Maybe Lou Lamoriello knows something we all don't, but I don't see Komarov making a huge impact. That's me. Columbus signed Dylan Simpson, 2 years. Pittsburgh signed Jimmy Hayes for a year. Lots of 1-year deals I've noticed, but they're probably for very good reason. Columbus signed Adam Clendening. Eric Fair signed in Minnesota. Good to see he's still getting, signed to teams and stuff. I've always liked Eric Fair. Always. He's just a good guy. You know what I mean? And he's a hell of a clutch performer when he needs to be. Oh, unfortunately that's just in Winter Classics, but he's clutch. Pittsburgh signed Stephen Elliott to a year. Laurent Brossoit. Maybe he just wants a chance to prove himself in a non-Edmonton market because he signed for a year in Winnipeg. It's too bad he aged out. He could have been an Oil King for life. Could have been. Florida signed Michael Hutchison to a year. I see a big backlog in Florida's net. But who knows? Maybe Hutchison's just somebody that they'll bury down in the minors till they need him, or maybe he's just their insurance. Who knows? Matt Cullen signed with Pittsburgh for a year. Wasn't he going to retire at the end of last year when he played for Minnesota? So many guys say they retire. I mean, Mike Fisher finally retired. Patrick Sharp said he's retired, but who knows if he comes back. Vegas signed Nick Holden to a 2-year deal. Minnesota signed Matt Bartkowski to a year. Edmonton signed Kyle Brodziak to 2 years. Welcome back, Brodziak. See if you make a bigger dent this time around than you did the first time. Chicago signed Brandon Manning to 2 years. Carolina signed Peter Mrazek to a year. Poor Peter. He should have been your starter in Detroit. They should just cut the cord on Howard, let him go, and kept Mrazek. But, man, apparently his attitude sucked. I guess that depends on who you believe. Arizona, making that step to getting better, even if it's gradual. Signed Michael Grabner to 3 years. This could be another case of where Arizona looks good on paper. And it's the same thing that happened last year. They look really good on paper, but not on the ice. Dallas made it official, re-signing Valery Nikushkin to a 2-year deal. We're just hoping he does something, because, he wasn't as huge as he thought he was going to be in the K. So hopefully he makes some noise back in Dallas. Edmonton signed Tobias Reeder to a year. Chicago signed Chris Kunitz to a year. Boston signed Joachim Nordstrom to 2 years. This one was a surprise to me. Blake Como signed in Dallas for 3 years. Oh, that could spell trouble for Colorado. Yaroslav Halak signed in Boston for 2 years. That's a lot of money to spend on goalies because they still got Tuukka. And now you got Yaroslav Halak. You're going to have... If Halak can stay healthy and can put up good numbers, you might have a bit of an issue as to who's your starting goalie, but that's a Boston thing. Detroit signed Jonathan Bernier to a 3-year deal. Remember I was saying they should have just let Howard go, cut the cord and let him go? I think this is their first step to doing it. Chicago signed Cam Ward to a year. Yeah, Cam Ward. You remember him. He won the Conn Smythe in 06 when Carolina won the Cup in 06. Remember him? James Van Riemsdyk goes back to Philly on a 5-year deal. Good for Van Riemsdyk. He's finally out of the shadow of Toronto now. Doesn't have to worry about Matthews or Tavares taking all his ice time when he can get it in Philly. Looking forward to seeing him with Giroux. Who else have we got that's notable? Carter Hutton. Signed in Buffalo for 3 years. David Perron went back to St. Louis for a 4-year deal. 1 year in Vegas, go back to St. Louis because you probably got a home and a family in St. Louis, and that's what I understand. Ian Cole signed a 3-year deal in Colorado. anything's better than Eric Johnson, really. Tyler Bozak signed in St. Louis for 3 years. Thomas Plekanec going back to Montreal on a 1-year deal. I guess he just had to get the feel of what it was like to really play in Toronto and then go back to Montreal. Thomas Vanek re-signs in Detroit for a year. Poor Vanek. He was so good once upon a time, but poor Vanek. Here's the surprise, the biggest surprise, I thought anyway. Paul Stastny signs in Vegas for 3 years. I thought when Winnipeg traded Armia and Mason, they were clearing up the space for him. But weren't we wrong? Jack Johnson officially signs in Pittsburgh for 5 years. Matt Hendricks goes to Minnesota for a year. And Mike Green, fucking Mike Green, re-signs in Detroit for 2. Have I mentioned I really don't like Mike Green? There were some signings before today, though. I mean, you had Ryan Reeves re-signing in Vegas for 2 years. Nicholas Hjalmarsson re-signed in Arizona for 2 years. Eddie Lack signed a year deal in New Jersey. Logan Couture re-signed in San Jose for 8 years. Good for Logan. Drew Doughty re-signed in LA for 8 years. Good for both guys. And Riley Sheehan re-signed in Pittsburgh for a year. Yeah, most of us I've already gone over. Tyler Bertuzzi re-signed in Detroit for 2 years. And the Kovalchuk signing was official today as well. 3-year deal. The long and short of it, that's your free agency on day 1. So, some surprises, some, you just kind of didn't see coming. That kind of came out of left field, like, what the hell was that? And some are just kind of, they're there, really. So that was my episode on NHL Free Agency Day 1. I was asked earlier, how long does free agency last for? Well, regular season starts again in October, and you'll have many guys who aren't signed today that will definitely be signed by then. Like, I was surprised James Neal wasn't signed today by anyone. That's not to say he's not talking with anyone, but he just wasn't signed today by anyone. I would have thought for sure he was going somewhere, whether it was staying in Vegas or going elsewhere. Who knows? I thought he was getting signed, but he didn't. But it's not to say that he won't, because he will. He's the real deal. He's James Neal. Of course he'll get signed. Seriously. But thanks for watching. Your viewership always means so much to me. Always has, always will. Like this video if you liked it. Subscribe on your way out if you want to. You can find me on Facebook at Trev's TV. You can find me on Instagram at RockstarTrevTV. In the meantime and in between time, I don't know when my next hockey episode will be. I have one in mind that I want to do for August. But that's August. So unless Gretzky gets traded again, keep on the lookout for more videos from Trev.